City Recorder Krager, please call roll.
Council President Wolf.
Here.
Youth Councilor Halleck.
Here.
Councilor Godusi.
Present.
Councilor Hu.
Here.
Mayor Lube.
Here.
Councilor Robbins.
Here.
Councilor Schlack.
Here.
Councilor Shaw.
Here. Thank you. If everyone will please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. City team or city council, any non-agenda items this evening? Okay. The first item on our agenda is proclamations and recognition. Okay. Proclamations and recognitions, and we have City Hall Selfie Day. So we have City Manager Stockwell here to introduce the proclamation, and I assume give us some history and maybe some pointers on how to do the appropriate selfie.
Absolutely, Mayor. So I would like to highlight that today is City Hall Selfie Day. A slide will be coming up with some photos of selfies that people have taken. What is City Hall Selfie Day? Well, organized by Engaging Local Government Leaders, or ELGL, City Hall Selfie Day is a celebration of public service showcasing pride in local government institutions. Every year since 2016, government employees, elected officials, members of the media, and community members all participate in this event across the United States and around the world. Don't believe me? Just go into your favorite social media platform and type in hashtag City Hall Selfie, and your feed will be filled with photos. So City Hall Selfie Day is all about local government pride. On the screen are some photos from our team members. Many more were taken today, and we're going to share them on our socials at City of Tigard. As the mayor has proclaimed today City Hall Selfie Day in Tigard, I'm going to ask you to do something totally extraordinary, and that is I'm going to ask everyone in attendance to head outside quickly so we can take our own City Hall Selfie Day selfie together. So thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us and indulging us on our official City Hall Selfie Day. The next item on the agenda is the City Manager Report with City Manager Stockwell.
All right, I have another slide. In Tigard, we are fortunate to have extraordinary leadership from Senator Neron Mislin, Representative Bowman, and Representative Rike Smith. They advocated for Tigard on housing, transportation, water, safety, and a myriad of other topics during this very busy legislative session. We wanted to particularly thank them for bringing $3 million in state funding to Tigard for work on building a better Tigard, the effort to build a brand new police and public works facility in Tigard after a long-awaited 25-plus years. I know that Mayor and Council will have additional remarks and questions during the session tonight on the legislative item, but we really wanted to thank you from Team Tigard. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Next item is public comment. We did not receive any public comments by noon yesterday, any written comments. If you'd like to provide public comment by phone or by video, please call or log in now to get into the queue. The phone number is 503-966-4101. And anyone wishing to comment in person, there is a sign-up sheet at the entrance of the room. We do have 2 people signed up to speak, and so if you will come on up, you have 2 minutes to speak if you let us know your name and the city that you live in. And first we have Sean Martinez. Welcome. Do you want Eliza to come up with you since Eliza's the next one? Okay.
Mayor, City Council, thanks for having us. I'm Sean Martinez. I live in Tigard with my daughter Eliza. I'm a car-free bike dad. You know, we don't own a car. We get around Tigard by public transit and bicycle. And we just wanted to come here. I'm a member of the Tigard Transportation Advisory Committee. I'm also a member of Climate Action Tigard. And I wanted to come here in front of you to talk about climate change. But first, we're going to talk about the Fountain Creek Trail extensions. And those are amazing. Thank you so much for getting that together and making that happen. I don't know if those of you have been on the trail. We've seen all these families out there riding bikes. People are going to Universal Plaza, spending money at our vendors there, and it's just an amazing project. But we need to do more. We really need to get more people on bikes and using public transit. As you can see, it's very hot outside right now. Climate change is here. 2024 was the hottest year on record. And we also know that transportation is the highest emitting sector for fossil fuel emissions and greenhouse gas emissions. I wanted to quote Portland Councilor Mitch Green. They said, anything we do that is not optimizing getting people out of cars and getting them to a bus stop or allowing them to walk from their neighborhood to school with their kids or do a bike bus or a ride or walk and roll around the city, if we are not prioritizing that, then every little piddly marginal thing that we do for climate change is much less important because most of our emissions come from automobiles. I brought an image of 2 vehicles here. You can see there is a big pickup truck and an e-bike. And only one of these vehicles is speed regulated for safety. And that's the e-bike. We do not regulate cars or pickup trucks, even though car crashes kill 43,000 people per year in the United States and injure 1.2 million people, costing us billions of dollars. So it's something to think about when we're prioritizing for climate change. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. Eliza, all yours.
I would like to talk about kids in cars. I would like to see more kids outside riding bikes, not playing video games at home, not like lounging on the couch, eating potato chips. I would like them to be like playing outside with their friends, drawing art with chalk, instead of just sitting in a car in the heat. Because when kids ride bikes, when they grow up, they probably will ride more, so there's less climate change, and more likely they'll live longer. And that's all I'd like to say.
Thank you both, Sean and Eliza, for being here today. Mr. Thornburg, are there any callers in the queue or anyone wishing to comment by video today?
Not at this time.
All right, thank you so much. The next item on the agenda is the consent agenda, and we will be acting as the City Council, the Local Contract Review Board, and the Town Center Development Agency. The consent agenda is used for routine items. Information on each item is available on the city's website in the packet for this meeting. These items may be enacted in one motion without separate discussion, or council members may request that an item be removed by motion for discussion and separate action. Tonight, we have the library roof replacement project contract, right-of-way landscape maintenance services contract, on-call specialty legal services contract amendment, TCDA development assistance agreement amendment, and the TCDA Tigard Triangle Urban Renewal Plan amendment. Are there any questions, comments, or a motion this evening? Yeah, Councilor Hu?
Thank you, Mayor. I do not want to pull any item, but I'll have a brief comment regarding item D, which is the amendment to development assistance agreement. So I just want to say that it's clear that this project has taken far longer than expected, and the delays have been pretty frustrating. My understanding is that our city staff have to have many difficult conversations, and I just want to really sincerely thank our city staff for their continued professionalism, patience, and steady leadership throughout this process. In addition to this assistance, I just want to mention that the city has also approved an additional $75,000 through our Downtown Redevelopment Assistance Fund. So this really reflects our strong commitment not only to this project, but also the broader economic development goals that we share. And finally, I want to acknowledge that I did not support the original $300,000 award more than 2 years ago. At that time, staff recommended $200,000, and I believe that was the more appropriate level of support at that time. But having said that, I will be supporting this extension today, mostly out of respect for the decision made by the majority of the council at that time. But I also want to close this chapter on a positive note. And I really hope that given the significant public investments, I really hope that this business will succeed. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional questions or comments? Councilor Schlack?
Mayor, I move to approve the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
I second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any additional discussion? Seeing none, will the city recorder, we will go ahead and do all of those in favor. Please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. The consent agenda is adopted by unanimous vote of the council. The next item on our agenda is the legislative session recap, and we are excited to welcome Senator Neron Mislin and Representative Ricky Smith here to share an overview of the legislative session. Are we anticipating that Rep. Bowman will also be here at some point? Okay. Well, we will welcome him to the area as soon as he is ready. Okay. Excellent. Well, if you want to come up and get started. We're excited to see you wearing our new city pins.
Just wanted to see if you noticed.
Can you, the microphone just needs to be turned on. It'll turn green. There's a button at the front. There you go. Thank you. Oh, and there is Representative Bowman right on time.
We are ready.
Welcome. We're just getting started, Rep. Bowman.
All right. Thank you so much for having us, Tigard City Council. We are excited to be here and join you today. Our names on this slide. I am Senator Neron Mislin, and
I'm Representative Ricky Smith.
And Representative Ben Bowman. Good to see you all.
so on the next slide, we'll see our district, our districts that we represent. I serve Senate District 13 currently, and the outline of Senate District 13, you'll see both parts of the two representative districts. So our communities are Tigard, and then the representative Tigard in House District 25, and Representative Ricky Smith serving the edge of Tigard, Sherwood, King City, Wilsonville, and Parrot Mountain. And then if you can fade the next slide there. Oh yeah. So then our, if we can go back one more, sorry, we don't have the, there we go. We've included in the slideshow a little bit about the work that we've done and a little bit about our identities. The focus of tonight will of course be the legislative session, but just kind of giving a little bit of background. I've been serving in the House since 2019 and was appointed to the Senate in 2025 this year. This year serving on committees including the House Education Committee, House Climate, Energy, and Environment, House Commerce, Consumer and Protections, and then the Senate Early Childhood, Behavioral Health, and Transportation, Economic Development, Ways and Means.
This is I was appointed, as many of you know, and I thank you for your help and support. So what I share with you here is about my background, which many of you know. But I also brought I think the experiences that I brought were not just as a superintendent and an educator of 25 years, but having served on the Oregon Educators Benefit Board relative to health care and mental health benefits, Educator Advancement Council, which works with making sure that our teachers have a say in terms of their work and how they can build the workforce. And then the Oregon Department of Education in 2024 served on the accountability framework, which led ultimately to Senate Bill 141, which passed, and I had an opportunity to vote for that bill during the last 3 weeks of the session.
And for me, my committee assignments, the House Rules Committee, for those of you who follow the legislature closely, it's sort of the catch-all committee. There's no deadlines in the Rules Committee, so we get a taste of everything by the end of session. I also served on the Budget Committee. We'll talk about some of the highlights from the session, but first I want to say, challenging circumstances, but Senator Neron Mislin and Representative Ricky Smith transitioned at a really difficult time in the session, really excellently into their roles. So I felt fortunate to get to work alongside them, and both handled the transition with grace, and I sincerely appreciated it and working with you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. So we're going to be sharing the slides that are coming up with policy overviews, but before we do, on the next slide you'll see that tomorrow we want to make sure everybody knows that we are going to be honoring the late Senator Aaron Woods in Wilsonville at 10 a.m. in a public memorial. The City of Wilsonville is hosting at Town Center Park. We do hope that community members are able to join us in commemorating the life and legacy of Senator Aaron Woods. So this slide shows that there's some parking available at City Hall. There will be a shuttle that's free, or parking will be around the park as well. So we hope that some of you and community listening are able to join us at 10 a.m. tomorrow. And next slide.
So we'll do a quick touch point on transportation in the last session, and then we'll talk about where we're looking moving forward on this topic. This was a huge focal point of the session, and candidly, it was a pretty significant disappointment that we didn't pass a transportation package at the end of session. What I will say is that doesn't mean all the work was for nothing. A lot of important work got done that I think has laid the groundwork for future policy and budget investments, an example of which you'll hear from Representative Ricky Smith in a moment. These were some of your priorities that I think aligned well with the three of our priorities. Maintaining the 50-30-20 distribution is incredibly important. You all are as cash-strapped as other municipalities and counties across the state, and without that additional funding source, it really jeopardizes the ability of local governments to maintain their infrastructure. And then a part of that, I drove here on Hall Boulevard and continue to be pleased by the progress. Kudos to Mayor Lube and the partnership with ODOT to have that work continuing even without the JT solidified. But that was like my number one thing, in the transportation package, having funding for JTs, which, you know, I think we talked about at the end of last session, the work that we did to lay the groundwork for more jurisdictional transfers. But these continue to be transportation priorities that I hope will be reflected in the work of the legislature in the months and years ahead. Next slide.
So the pieces from HB 2025 that we want to highlight, basically the roadshow themes prior to my arrival. But going out into communities and asking what is important to have in the transportation bill. So dealing with greenhouse gas emissions, making sure that there were jobs both at ODOT, but also expansion of jobs relative to projects that we hoped to get done through 2025. Multimodal and transit, and then certainly equity, that we are serving our communities based on their needs, and it may not look the same out on the frontier as it does in our suburban and urban areas, but that was, you know, a key component from the testimony that was received, as well as safety. How can we make our streets and our highways, and particularly our bridges, safer? And then deliver on operations and maintenance and finishing those projects that were yet to be done, and then creating a strong funding framework to counter declining gas tax revenues. The good news is people are shifting to hybrids and EVs. The bad news is that the system is built on gas tax, and so how do you begin to make that shift and balance that against gas tax in the short term, and then ultimately knowing that you're going to transition completely to EV and hybrid. Which brings us then to the governor's call relative to a special session, which will occur on August 29th. Representative Bowman, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that public testimony will be taken on August 25th. And I believe I was reinforced today by Mayor O'Neill in Wilsonville that they have a copy of the current draft of the bill, and I'm assuming that all mayors and cities have received that. And so I would ask for those in those districts or those communities that I serve, that if you see something in the reading of that you need to bring to our collective attention, please do so. The goal here for this bill, it is not meant to be the end-all be-all as 2025 was. It is meant to basically patch the hole so that we can keep ODOT solvent and moving forward and prevent the layoffs. And as many of you do know, the layoffs have been delayed until September 15th to give time for the legislature to meet and address this issue. I am pleased to say that 50, 30, 20 and STIF are in this bill, and that was unfortunately not the case at the end of the session, and therefore I personally found it difficult to support that version until 50, 30, 20 and STIF were addressed, and it is in this bill. There is also a very clear framework in terms of accountability for ODOT, both from the governor's office as well as from the legislature, and the expectations that we hold for ODOT to deliver on the work that is in their purview. And so the revenue solutions as they now stand, the gas tax will be increased by 6 cents from a base of 40, and so it will be 46 cents relative to gas vehicles. Registration fees, the base was $42 to the base, $30 for EVs and vehicles that have 40 miles per gallon or greater. Title fees will increase by $139, and then relative to STIF dollars funding, there will be an additional 0.1% in payroll tax, which would take it to 0.2%.
And next slide. So one of the main goals this session was to continue addressing our housing and homelessness crisis in Oregon. We passed many policies, and of course this is a brief legislative update. In order to go through the many bills that we did pass, it would take many hours. We have a collection here, though, of some of our housing and homelessness bills that I wanted to make sure are at the forefront of your attention. We can all celebrate the establishment of the statewide shelter program, and in fact, I want to thank everyone that was involved in bringing that bill signing to Just Compassion in Tigard as one of our examples of a really successful shelter program. So we did do the bill signing for the regional coordination of funds of shelter programs here in Tigard. We also know that one of the main barriers to housing and affordable housing is the infrastructure in the ground and infrastructure in general. So we have a variety of bills that do help to advance new affordable housing, including the pre-development loans, including the housing infrastructure funding, and including middle housing expansion policies. These bills, I will thank all of the cities that we work with, and all of the engagement that you all, the time you all spent in advocating for some of these bills to improve before passage. Not all of them earned my support, but especially the ones where there was infrastructure funding for those goals to make sure that we are not only requiring something, but supporting that work and really maintaining the local cities' vision for follow through on their housing planning and development. So the shot clock bill did pass, and that does change the length of time allowed for reviewing land use applications for housing. So I know that that was one of main concern. And I want to also highlight the third one on this list, which is one that we worked extensively with Tigard residents to pass. We capped rent increases on the land in our manufactured home communities where the residents often own their homes but are renting the land. And that rent on the land now is capped at 6%. We listened to what was and was not working about previous iterations of caps. And this bill also prohibits unfair management practices that we were hearing about. Representative Bowman and I, with Senator Woods, held some town halls earlier this year and during the previous interim to really hear from our constituents. We want to make sure that we're keeping our seniors on fixed income, our families housed, and some of these predatory practices of the management and the exponentially rising rent on the land were destabilizing our communities. So really celebrating House Bill 3054 and all of the Tigard residents who showed up to help that pass.
So I'll talk quickly about some of the healthcare bills that we passed out of the session. I know it's not a direct impact to the council as much as housing policy, but it matters a lot to the people who live in this community. The cost of living is one of the most prominent concerns that we hear from folks, and I imagine you hear from folks as well. And healthcare is a huge driver of that. You all have heard me talk about the corporate practice of medicine bill before. I was very pleased and grateful that it passed this session and has been signed into law by the governor. Essentially, this is a bill designed at curbing the relentless trend we've seen towards corporate and private equity buyers purchasing small medical clinics and then twisting the knobs to bring in more money. They'd stop seeing Medicaid patients, they'd raise prices, they'd stop providing services that aren't profitable. And so what we've done with our bill is, it's a bit complex, but in its essence, what it's saying is that doctors have to be the ones making the medical decisions. You can't have a corporate boardroom dictating what happens in an exam room. Those have to be made by providers. The second one I want to highlight that is really important and also relevant given what we're seeing at the federal level is House Bill 2010. For those of you familiar with our healthcare landscape in Oregon, this is our provider tax. It is a major component of how we fund our Medicaid system. And Medicaid is how millions of Oregonians receive their health care, including about half of the kids in this state. And so what we did is we passed one of the most robust Medicaid funding packages in the country. We basically take every ability we can to draw down federal resources to provide health care to people who need it. So I'm really proud of Oregon's record when it comes to healthcare access. I think we have one of the lowest uninsured rates in the country. And I also want to highlight that if you've been following the federal debate with HR 1, the budget bill passed by the Trump administration, this funding mechanism that we use to provide a robust Medicaid coverage is being slashed. So the estimates from our folks in the Department of Administrative Services are estimating a $12 billion loss just from loss of provider tax over the next 10 years. And that's just a taste of the cuts that we're going to be experiencing when this bill is fully implemented that range from Medicaid to SNAP to fisheries to rural hospitals, and it runs the gamut. So good news that in the very short term we have preserved this mechanism for providing health care, but we are going to see cuts to healthcare in this state because of the federal actions, and I just thought it was important for you all to have that context. I think I'll leave just a quick note of gratitude to Senator Neeron Mislin for her work on international licensure for physicians. We have a huge shortage of providers in this state, and we've made it a little bit easier with this bill for folks who are credentialed internationally to come to Oregon and have a bit of a speedier runway to seeing patients at a time when we really need more people to be seeing patients. And our menopause healthcare insurance bill falls in the category of bills that it's a bit embarrassing that it took us this long to do this, but perimenopause, menopause, and postmenopause will be mandated to be covered by insurance companies moving forward, which is an exciting development.
Next slide.
Thank you. In healthcare, we've got the right slide? No, it's
Go to the
behavioral
next
health.
slide.
Yeah, so thank you. One of the bills that I did have the opportunity to both be a sponsor on as well as to vote in the affirmative for is House Bill 2005, which redefines civil commitment schedule. In short, this was both an answer to a lawsuit against the state relative to how we define and commit individuals who are struggling with mental health crisis, but also in the sense of making sure that they are getting to the right kind of service for the type of crisis that they are experiencing. And so this, I think over the long haul, should provide some relief to the Oregon State Hospital as they are working through their challenges in terms of providing restorative care to those and to bring those that have been committed by the courts in quickly and get them assessed and to treatment, but also providing care at the local level as well. And making sure that people are getting into the behavioral health that they need to get them through that crisis, rather than simply all assuming that it needs to go one direction, which is towards the Oregon State Hospital. So that was one that I was grateful to have the opportunity to participate in. Behavioral health workforce grants. You can see here the variety of issues that was taken up during the session and passed successfully, particularly relative to youth substance abuse, relative and prevention, addressing fentanyl, which we know is indeed a critical crisis, and open opioid alternative options as well. All focused to what we know is a crisis in our communities relative to access to opioid drugs and those that, like fentanyl, that can be life-ending.
Okay. All right, next slide. And this slide, we see some of the work that we've collaborated on to bring to you. Safety, justice, and compassion all fit together in so many ways. But the top item here is one that Representative Bowman, Representative Ricky Smith, and I are really grateful for your partnership and that we're able to bring to the City of Tigard the $3 million that we've secured to advance designing and planning of the new Public Works facility. As a representative for Wilsonville, as they've designed their Public Works facility, I'm really excited for that to also come to the City of Tigard as an emergency operations hub. And the vision that you all have is so strong, and I hope that this can help advance the planning and really, as you're working on this, that the community understands what an incredible asset this project is. So we are thrilled to be bringing this home for you all. And we also advocated together to make sure that we have the Washington County Courthouse on the right track as well. As a Clackamas County representative as well, I helped to make sure that we saw that Clackamas County Courthouse go from the planning phase that we're in right now with Washington County through to completion and grand opening earlier this year in May. And I really look forward to working in partnership with Representative Ricky Smith and Representative Bowman to make sure that Washington County also expands the amount of courtrooms, offers trauma-informed and ADA accessible care and courtrooms, and that we are really able to meet the needs of our fast-growing county. So the $1.2 million that we've secured will help with that planning and design of the new county courthouse as well. And then, even though it wasn't this session, I want to make sure that we all keep at the forefront the incredible work that Just Compassion Shelter is doing. And so some of the previous allocations from the state helped to build that center that opened earlier this year. Those investments helping to make sure that we're bringing that community-based resource, that those new beds that are needed for shelter, and the incredible work of all the people who've had that vision and coming to fruition. It's just really important that we highlight the partnerships and the ongoing work that we need to make sure we're bringing that kind of facility to more of our communities as well. So I think Just Compassion serves as a model.
Just really quickly, I want to underscore, getting that $3 million was not an easy thing, and it wouldn't have happened without Senator Neron Mislin fighting really hard in the Senate, and it also wouldn't have happened without Emily Tritch from the city of Tigard, who did incredible work getting us information in a very short time period. And I also want to shout out Devin Mullins from my office, who had a late night trying to get everything ready when we saw this window of opportunity. So a big success story from Tigard that took a lot of people to make happen.
Yeah, underscore that, echo that, and it really was a window of opportunity that we seized upon. So thanks to everybody that was involved. All right, next slide.
I know we're coming up on time, so I'll talk quickly through this. Next slide. There we go. So of interest probably to folks here, we passed a big gun safety bill that has implications for local governments. The first part of the bill is about rapid fire devices, or bump stocks. That to me was the easiest and most straightforward component of that bill. These are essentially devices that take a non-automatic weapon and turn it into an automatic weapon. The automatic weapons are already prohibited, but this device was sort of a loophole. This bill closes that loophole. In terms of local governments, what we've done is essentially grant local control to cities and counties and other local jurisdictions to decide what kind of firearm safety policy they want for their meetings in buildings that they own. So you all will have a decision to make about how you want to implement or choose not to implement this policy. This is something that Dr. Ricky Smith and I have experience from, because schools actually had this ability before local governments did. That was a choice we decided to make in TTSD with the board and administration, and so you now will have that opportunity as well. We passed some important wildfire funding and policy. This is a huge issue in our state. I do want to emphasize the work is not done on wildfires. We've got to find sustainable funding for what is likely to be an increasingly large cost to the state. But we did pass some initial steps that I think will put us in a stronger position moving forward. And then an important child data privacy bill that has kind of been under the radar, but I think continues in Oregon's tradition of trying to protect the privacy of vulnerable people in this state.
Next slide, please. I think what is also near and dear to many of us is relative to early childhood, and then certainly access to childcare. And so you can see the number of bills here relative that were focused to expanding allowable preschool locations, expanded allowable locations for childcare facilities, and then one that I think is also near and dear to my heart as a nurse are the perinatal services and preventing eviction of babies when they are young. We know that the greatest opportunity that the children have between birth and 3 is that ability to bond and to have stability in their lives, and certainly stability for at least the mother, if not the mother and partner, are key to a child having a successful start in life. And so pleased to be able to speak and to vote to those bills as well.
And next slide. I want to underscore something that Representative Bowman just said. The work is not done, and really our job is that the work is never done. We're always, like you, coming back to try to figure out what can we do next to make our communities successful and help Oregonians thrive. In terms of our local economies, we this session invested in a variety of things that will ideally be economic generators, everything from baseball to festivals, key markets, the arts. And we also, in terms of things that the cities are tracking, did restore recreational immunity, which is something that was an LOC priority and a priority of each of the cities that we serve. We invested in the Industrial Site Readiness Fund, which I think we can both celebrate and critique. We want more dollars to go in, as those dollars are force multipliers that unlock land for industrial development and really help stimulate strategic long-term growth and family wage jobs. So we might have wanted 40 million, but we got 10 million, and we will go from there, and we'll continue. The work is not done, advocating for our communities that are interested in industrial site readiness. In terms of local economies in each of our homes, we are hearing from our constituents, as you all are, I'm sure, as well, about the rising cost of utilities. So we passed the Fair Energy Act, the Power Act, and performance-based regulation, 3 of the top bills that will hopefully save Oregonians money on their energy costs, their utilities costs. The Fair Energy Act requires that utilities provide an economic impact assessment on residential ratepayers prior to any rate increase and seeking any rate increase. The Power Act will actually prevent residential customers from subsidizing data centers. And the performance-based regulations also intersect with something that I saw on the Tigard City Council legislative agenda, which is making sure we're addressing our greenhouse gas emissions in responsible ways. So this will help us to, in many ways, but one of the ways that I want to highlight for this council is that it adds specific efficiency and greenhouse gas metrics to the performance-based regulations, which are new. And next slide.
Would you like me to take that one? All right. Well, I'll be able to give you an overview of most of the session that I did not attend. But the session was convened January 21st, and sine die was on June 27th at midnight. The measures: 1,267 Senate bills, 2,037 House bills, 76 concurrent resolutions, 56 joint resolutions, 24 joint memorials, 6 resolutions, 1,915 proposed amendments. It was a busy session. 640 bills out of all of that were sent to the governor for signature. And I think a point of pride for us is that 97.3% earned bipartisan support. And in terms of the committees, you can get a sense there as to the data points. Particularly the public hearings and work sessions. I think those are most important when we engage with our communities and our stakeholders. And then in terms of public engagement, you can see how many signed up to testify at public hearings and how many pieces of written testimony were submitted this year.
And next slide. This is just a quick resource slide is this yours?
Yeah, no, sure.
Okay. This is just a quick resource slide for you all to explore later on. These are links to the Legislative Policy Research Office overviews of each of our subject areas. I find them to be very readable. They show with a green X or red X whether or not something passed or failed. But all of the bills that got hearings are listed in these links with brief overviews, so you can find out about some of the policies that we haven't mentioned tonight that you might be interested in by diving into any of these links.
So just real quickly, I'll close by starting by saying thank you to you all. I have really appreciated the partnership that we have as legislators with our local government, both the elected and the administration side. The ability to get information quickly and to get your opinion. I know that you probably individually and collectively don't love every piece of legislation that we passed. That's probably true for the 3 of us as well. And there's some important things that we wanted to pass that didn't get passed, and that you wanted to get passed that didn't get passed. That is the story of every session. And the great news is the work for the future sessions has already begun. We are starting to figure out what kind of bills we want to bring forward in the short session. We'll each have 2 bills that we'll be able to bring forward. And then in 2027, we'll be back and starting another long session. So that is the cycle of the Oregon legislature. And I hope that we'll be able to continue to partner closely with you all as city councilors and as the mayor.
And we would like to bring to your attention, we will be holding a joint town hall on the 23rd of Saturday, the 23rd of August, at the Tigard Public Library, and we hope to see you there, in case you just didn't get enough this evening. But I think the importance of town halls, and particularly in light of our current political discourse, I find I've already held one, and find it to be a great energizer, and really enjoy, as I know my colleagues here do, that interplay and that opportunity to field the hard questions and have that discourse and conversation, because that's what democracy is all about. Is not having easy conversation, having hard conversation, and getting to good results for everyone.
And I would just say that this slide has our contact information. We hope that not only we know you know how to reach out to us, but that the public also takes it into consideration when they need to reach out to us for any kind of advocacy, policy questions, navigating state agencies. We can help triage, and as you can see, hopefully, we're a team. We work together really well, and it's been really meaningful to partner with each other to advocate on your behalf. We're your Tigard team in Salem. In terms of the interim work that we're doing town halls, we're reaching out, we're doing tours. I know we've each been on tours this week, and educating ourselves about the things and the places and the issues that our constituents are navigating. We're each diving into either policy areas that didn't pass that we need to refine before we bring back as our 2 bills, or creating new conversations where we're hearing that new issues are arising. Some of you may notice that you have 3 people highly focused on education, and there wasn't an education slide, so I want to acknowledge that as I was building this, I felt like if we open that, we will be here all night, but we also are happy to talk about education. I wanted to make sure we kept it to the LOC and Tigard legislative priorities, but happy to answer questions about the topics you've seen here with any remaining time that we might have, or any other topics that are on your mind. Thank you so much for having us. It's an honor to be here.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Maybe we do education on Saturday. That's what'll bring us in on Saturday, is to have that conversation. But if you have questions, please ask them. First, I want to say thank you. Majority Leader Bowman, you said it perfectly. We don't always agree on all of the issues or different parts of the issues. But I think what's really, really important is we always have those conversations. And I just really appreciate when we call, you answer, you make time for us, you show up for our community, you get to know the issues. And we trust that when you're in the room, you are representing what we have asked you to do, or given you the perspective on why we're asking it. And that just really is a testament to being able to bring back the $3 million and fighting for it. Thank you so much from our community. We're really looking forward to continuing that on and looking forward to Tigard's future, and that is a continued step in the right direction. I think we're all collectively bummed about transportation for sure. It was such a large topic, but we really just ask you to make sure that, as it's been stated, the 50-30-20 it's just a line in the sand for us. And so we would appreciate you continuing to hold that line and ensure that counties and cities are also part of the equation. And if for any reason you want to ask, Great Streets and jurisdictional transfers, wouldn't object to it, would be happy to sign up for some testimony on August 25th. To help provide a path forward for every community, because most communities do continue to have this problem. But we're really lucky to have this partnership, and thank you for representing us down in Salem. Any additional questions or comments? Do you have any questions? Yeah, Councilor Shaw?
Just want to say thank you to each of you for all the hard work that you had last session, and for the transition and jumping right in and being so quick to make that happen, and also to ensure that Tigard had a voice. So just want to say thank you. And as my colleagues know, I often will say 3% of the vehicles on the road are electric vehicles. It's not the reason that we need to have a gas increase specifically now because we've had such great technology that's advanced our mileage for our gas and trucks on the road, which has been terrific. It is a problem we need to address, but I just don't like when it's specifically targeted towards electric vehicles or hybrids. It really is a problem for all electric vehicles, but also gas vehicles, and we need to all pay our fair share. So they would probably not, they probably wouldn't expect me not to say that. And then also just ODOT, you know, they tend to be easy to vilify. They do a tremendous job. They're doing a tremendous job here, both on Hall Boulevard, but also at 217. They're the ones that make sure we have safe roads to drive, particularly when we have snow. It's decreasing, but when there's snow on our roads, they do clear them. They help with wildfire, to Majority Leader Bowman's points. I mean, these are very vital, important resources that we do need to have. And so again, just thank you each for all the work you do, and look forward to the special session and coming up with solutions both in 26 but also 27 together. Thank you.
Council President Wolf, you're on the big screen.
Let's see. Well, yes. Well, that has to be scary. But thank you, Mayor, and thank you to all three of you for being here this evening. And I so appreciate your representation and your advocacy for our community. And the only piece, ditto to the mayor, to Councilor Shaw, and all of those things that have been shared with gratitude. And the one piece that I just feel compelled to share, I represent Southeast electeds on the board of Community Action. And while we have done tremendous investment, I think, in infrastructure to support houselessness, I am concerned around emergency rent assistance. I believe that the program has worked to keep individuals in their housing, and we all know that those demands and needs, the bucket of money is fixed. And I really appreciate that those demands and needs are only going to increase. And then also, just as we look to just compassion in those demands, again, continue to increase how we, for cities like Tigard that have really stepped up and are assisting with large shelters, how we really support the whole community and all those that are in need of shelter assistance. So again, thank you so much for everything that you're doing, and just so appreciate all three of you. Professionally and personally, and thank you.
Councilor Hu?
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you all so much for being here today. I just want to tag on Councilor Shaw's comment for the transportation bill, because before your presentation, Sean and Eliza were here presenting the need for greater investment in bicycle path and nature path. And I understand, as Dr. Su mentioned, it's a special session, it's a patch, right? It's not a be-all and end-all, and we need to take care of the emergency. But I did hear there are concerned that there will be additional increase in taxes, but there will be no investment, my understanding, in additional trails, right, or bike path. So, but hopefully next year at a short session or beyond, we can revisit that again, because we need to put money where our mouths, when we say we care about climate action, if we just focus on road and cars, that's not how we should go about it. And another thing is, another point I want to touch on is, I really appreciate Senator Missling attending the Chamber's business listening session. And I think maybe unfairly that Oregon, I've heard over and over again, has said Oregon's becoming more and more business and friendly. I have no idea if that's true or not, but as you mentioned, education is important, right? That's the stepping stone for having skilled workforce and stuff like that. But how about other area? Maybe you're doing that, we're doing that, but it's just not being advertised, So perhaps more focused on economic development and helping our small businesses, or more highlights on that. I would really appreciate that. So thank you so much.
Councilor Gadusi?
Well, if everyone else is going to thank you for things, the work that you all have been doing to help keep private equity out of healthcare has been really important to me specifically. It's one of those big things that we see. Some people put profits over patients, which is really concerning as a physician, right? And the way that y'all have been expanding access to non-opioid treatments, where it's a good first step. There's of course a lot that we can't do, but I appreciate it. Thank you.
Councillor Schlack?
Thank you, Mayor, and like everyone else on the bandwagon, I wanted to just take this opportunity to join my colleagues in expressing my thanks and gratitude for your leadership in Salem and your partnership with Tigard. In particular, I think the Police and Public Works funding of $3 million is a really great achievement and something that will be very, very helpful in the near future. You know, we're not going to win everything, but I think politics is a team game, and I think you all are so great to have on Team Tigard. One of the things that I did want to mention, which Senator Courtney Neron Mislin, I don't know why I added your first name, and I'm so sorry. I'm so used to saying it that way.
All the things.
Yeah, all the things. SB 974, I think, is going to be an ongoing conversation to see how that actually works in practice. I know that's been something that's a topic of discussion with our Planning Commission and with our council, trying to get the balance between making sure there's local input with also time to delivery for housing to address the regional crisis that we have. And also, I will just state for the record, I was planning on grilling you all on that T-bone steak resolution. I'm not going to right now, but I just wanted to put that on the record that I did have that temptation. Thank you all so much.
I like the pun.
If I can just really quickly, because I appreciate Councilor Schlack, your comments, and have had similar conversations with Councilor Hu. I do think Tigard is punching way above its weight class and doing more than its fair share when it comes to supporting the houseless, when it comes to housing production. And I just want to recognize that the sort of top-down approach is probably not received great by a city that is doing its fair share. As you can understand on the flip side, we do not have enough housing units in this state, and the high cost of housing, driven in part because of our low supply, is a driver of our homelessness crisis. So what I just want to say verbally is, like, I do think there's opportunity for us to partner together and figure out ways to reward the cities who are doing their fair share, and maybe have a more direct approach with other municipalities who aren't producing housing at the level or in the way that you are. So I just don't want you all to feel unseen for the work that you are doing. We do recognize that the governor's housing team often will highlight Tigard for the work that you're doing. So appreciate you saying that, and just wanted to validate that we agree.
Yeah, and I'll build on that too, that so much of the work in all of these slides intersects with housing topics. So it's not only that construction, it's the preservation of affordable housing inventory. It's keeping people stable so that they can afford to stay housed. It's also what Council President Wolf brought up. We have to continue to invest in eviction prevention, and that is something that during interim I'll continue to work on in partnership with my colleagues, because we do need to deliver. The challenge at the state is that we have to balance the budget. We are trying to navigate the fragile time that we're in with the federal dynamic and the revenue forecast, which told us to be as cautious and reasonable as possible. It meant that not all of the really good ideas that we've brought forward were possible this time around, so we'll continue to try to advocate for the things that our communities are telling us are the top priorities, and continue to try to deliver. And we'll build on those eviction prevention dollars and all of the many things that intersect with those housing and homelessness crisis root causes that we can identify.
And definitely SNAP and food. I see the Tigard Chamber CEO who has let us know that we have a matching SNAP program at the Tigard Farmers Market where individuals can get matching dollars, and they're close to running out for the year already, which is a testament, I think, to the increased need in our community that's happening well ahead of the impact of these federal choices are going to have. So I just want to highlight that too, because a lot of our kids are going to go hungry.
Mayor, I appreciate you bringing that forward, and I believe Representative Bowman alluded to the fact that we already have our work plans ahead of us in the short session, and certainly addressing these issues in terms of food security, in terms of access to health care, in terms of the other impacts of the bill. I had the opportunity to be back in Boston for the National Conference on State Legislators, and the word of the day was basically states are pretty much going to be on their own, and they've got to figure it out. Fortunately, you have an amazing team here. I'm just here for the food. But in all seriousness, it is, if we did not have, and I think that's my one takeaway of many in the 3 short weeks that I was on the floor, is the immense intellect and passion and commitment, regardless of which side of the aisle you sat on, to really, solving problems and making Oregon a great place to be. And that, for as difficult as the future conversations are going to be, to know that you have that kind of body, that you have the opportunity, it truly is an honor. Do we frustrate each other? Absolutely. But at the end of the day, do we do good work? Yes, I believe that we do. And when we don't, you're going to let us know. And that's part of the partnership for which I'm very grateful, and I truly am honored to be a part of this team, and look forward to continuing to serve you all well in this endeavor. But food security is already at our door. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We would love to take a picture with you if you're okay.
Absolutely.
I have to frantically put on a pin with everyone watching. Oh, thank God.
Councilor Wolf, or Council President Wolf, if you want to turn your camera on, you can also be in this picture remotely. There you go.
Oh, but how big am I?
Thank you, everyone. The next item on the agenda is the National Community Survey results, and we have Management Analyst Richardson to give the staff report. Welcome, Alex.
Nice to see everybody this evening. Just for the record, my name is Alex Richardson, and I'm a management analyst in the City Management Department. All right, so I'm here to talk about the results of the 2025 National Community Survey. Hopefully everyone has seen the Tableau link and or the PDF report. Both will be posted publicly tomorrow morning. And next slide, please. I'll spend some time going through kind of an overview of the survey and the methodology, how it was sent out, that sort of thing, and then just some of the highlights of the report. So this is the second time that we've conducted the survey in the recent past. Some of that information is in your agenda item summary. So the results that are being compared to and the results that I'll be talking about tonight are from 2023. The National Community Survey is conducted by Polco and the National Research Center. It focuses, as you can see, on community livability and core services. And the main kind of exciting thing about the National Community Survey is that it benchmarks communities' results against 500 other cities. So we really have a sense to see where we sit compared with the other communities nationally. And responses to questions rate primarily quality, so excellent, good, fair, poor, don't know. Just to note that don't know is not reflected in the results in the PDF report or the main results on the Tableau link. So you can toggle those on the Tableau report, but in the PDF report, they're not included in those percentages, and therefore that's not the majority of what I'm presenting on tonight. So I just wanted to make that known. So it's a 5-page survey, and it included 4 custom questions that we got to choose. The other questions are set by Polco, and so all the communities, of course, receive those same questions. And I'll get to what those custom questions are toward the end, but just a little bit about methods and respondents. So 3,000 households in the city were randomly selected for the random sample survey, which is what the report is on. Mailings began May 1st, and then they were open till June 10th. The survey was open, till June 10th. We had about 4% return for invalid addresses, which is average, and then 374 residents completed the surveys, which is a 13% response rate, which is also in line with the national average and pretty closely mirrors where we were last time we did this in 2023, which was 14%. We also had, some of you might know, we had an open participation survey available as well, so any community member could take that survey. The only real difference was that there was a question about Tigard residency to confirm that, and then a how did you hear question. The results are kept separate from the random sample survey, and so this presentation covers those random sample results, but you can find those open participation results on the Tableau page. And then, I think that's good for that one. If we could please move to the next slide. Thank you. So if you do have the PDF report in front of you, or if you want to refer to that later, this table will be found on page 4 of that report. So Polco and National Research Center do use weighting so that the demographics of respondents match the demographics of Tigard. And so there's this weighting effect. And you can see from the table all of the different demographic segments and the raw results of who responded to the survey and then how those were weighted. The Census and American Community Survey were the sources used for those targets. And then just to point out, when you look at some of the segments, for instances, age 18 to 34, and race and Hispanic origin, not white alone, not of Hispanic, Latino, Latinx, Spanish origin, some of these were weighted quite a bit in order to match the target. So that's just something to kind of keep in mind, that some of the demographic segments can be skewed in that sense, but the weighting, of course, is still important to try to represent as fully as possible all the different demographics of Tigard. So just wanted to point that out.
Excuse me.
Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I'm a little confused. So could you just explain what that means, weighted, just like two or three sentences?
I will do the best I can, and then also I know that Brent is, City Manager Stockwell is a kind of an expert on National Community Survey, so if he has anything to add in, please do. But when you look at the responses of people that took the survey, the unweighted would be the leftmost column in that table. And so only 9% of respondents were between the ages of 18 to 34. But in fact, 27% of Tigard's population is 18 to 34. So the results, those people that are within that 18 to 34 bracket, their response is multiplied or weighted times, in that case, 3 to get to that target. So the people that responded, their response kind of is amplified through that effect.
I'll just add, the point of that is to try and get a truer picture of the actual sentiment of the entire community. Thanks.
Thank you. Next slide, please. Yeah. So just these are some overall highlights. As you can see, residents do continue to rate Tigard positively as a place to live. and work. One areas that saw a lot of gains was safety. So more respondents felt safe from property and violent crime in 2025 than surveyed in 2023. Residents feel that our community does a good or excellent job at making residents feel welcome at a rate of about 70%. And then one area where we continue to shine, same as in 2023, is that our drinking water remains higher than the national benchmark. Next slide. So you can see here a real benefit, of course, of doing this survey every 2 years, which is how it's designed to be distributed biennially, is that you can see the change over time. And so I'm excited that we'll, I assume, continue to do the survey every 2 years so that we can really track changes over time. And that can tell us a lot about where we stand in terms of perception from the residents' viewpoint. So these are areas that we saw increases. Again, that safety from violent crime, that was an increase of 12 points. Water resources, Tigard is a place to work, which is nice to see. Crime prevention, and then vibrancy of downtown and commercial area. And I should say too that of the 123 evaluative questions included on both surveys, 88 were statistically similar to 2023. So there wasn't very much of a difference between the response in 2023 to 2025. 7 ratings increased and 28 decreased. And I did want to note with that too, that I talked a little bit to Polco about this, and they noted that Polco observed a general decline in resident satisfaction ratings across the country over the last 3 years. So downward trends were seen specifically in several key areas around perceptions of government performance, economy, availability of employment opportunities, affordability, and a few other areas. So I think that's just important to keep in mind, that some of these might mirror national trends, but they're all still, of course, worth considering. So then next we'll look at the items that have decreased, just some of those. If you could go to the next slide, please. So these are areas that saw decreases from 2023 in terms of resident opinion. And I'll get more into detail about all of these different areas. And of course, you can find the full results of all of the questions and the trends up or downward, and also what the difference is in increase or decrease in the report. Polco only considers it a statistically significant increase or decrease if it's at least 7 points in either direction from 2023. So if there was a difference of less than 7%, they don't sort of consider that statistically significant. So that's why I've just included the ones that exceed that. And the next one. And the gap analysis is interesting because it really kind of shows the areas of the largest difference between perceived quality and perceived importance. So one area that you can see is really aligned here is natural environment. So that's really important to our residents, and they also consider it to be of really high quality. And then there are areas where there is a larger difference, as you can see. So inclusivity and engagement sticks out as an area to me, mobility, economy. So that's just another way to sort of analyze this information. Next slide. So what I did is I kind of picked out what I thought were some key highlights and statistics or responses that fell under the council goals and highlighted them that way. And then just as a little note, the little icons in the upper right corner are related to the community promise 5 E's. So that's kind of what that means. So for goal 1, create housing opportunities for current and future residents. You can see a variety of housing options rose a bit, and some of these areas fell in terms of overall quality of new development, well-planned residential growth, and availability of affordable housing. One interesting thing, I don't know if any of you have had a chance to kind of look around much on the Tableau site so far, but you can filter results by demographic response, so you can look at how people from different demographic segments answered questions. I'll show where that is on a later slide, but there are a couple different places to do that. So that's really interesting to get an idea of how people of different demographic segments tend to answer these questions. It's only 374 respondents, so of course it's not going to be inclusive of everyone in our community by any means, but it is one interesting way to analyze the results. And so just one demographic note that I found interesting for this one is the difference in how respondents rated variety of housing options dependent upon income level. So that's just an example of one way that this information can be analyzed, but there are many other ways to segment it and analyze it as well. We can go to the next slide. So Council Goal 2, the economy facet of livability really matches up with this goal nicely. So as I mentioned before, the perception of economic development fell, but interestingly, it's still considered similar to the national benchmark. So that tells me that nationally that fell as well. While ratings of our business and service establishments remain stable. And then again, just one thing I picked out of note from the demographic analysis is there was a difference between respondents that were not white alone compared with white alone, and that's how Polco categorizes those two demographic segments. So there's a big difference there in rating dependent upon race. So just one way to look at the data, but that I thought was interesting. And then we can go to the next slide with Council Goal 3. So this one, we know that this is a big goal, and actually I'll probably end up here again at some point too, because I'm one of the leads of one of the strategies in this goal. But this encompasses a lot, and it has to do with how people spend their time, so how they live, work, and play in Tigard. There are quite a few facets that fit within this goal, so I really just picked out a couple areas. But mobility, things related to environment and parks, as well as education, arts, and culture fit under this. I feel like I should maybe give you a minute to digest this one because it is quite a bit. But as I said before, natural environment and also parks and recreation, that continues to be a really high performing area for our survey respondents. Recreation centers or facilities, that is one area that's lower than the national benchmark, which we don't have a dedicated recreation facility run by the city, so that's not too surprising, but many of the other areas within those two facets performed really highly. One thing that I did find a little bit surprising was that the markers within education, arts, and culture went down. And I know that we, as a city, we do a lot in terms of arts and events, and we were just talking about education earlier. This is a really rich area that I feel like has a lot of opportunities. But interestingly, only one response within this facet was lower than the benchmark nationally, and that's adult educational opportunities. So still tracking pretty much in line with the national average here as well. We can go to the next one. And then I know that Strategic Initiatives Program Manager, I believe, and possibly one other colleague will be presenting specifically about the facility project. And of course, thrilled to hear that we were awarded the $3 million. That's really excellent news. So I won't spend too much time on this, but these were the custom questions around this facility that were provided to me by that team. And we included the don't know because I think that that's really interesting when you look at just, there is a lack of awareness, of course, or I shouldn't say of course, but something that I know that our teams are working on is increasing awareness of the state of the current police department and public works facilities. So there's still a lot of people that don't know, but when you look at the responses to the question about support for the ballot measure, it's largely positive. 60% somewhat or strongly support this measure, so at this point. So there's a lot of other polling that, of course, they're doing, so this is just one part of that, but I found that interesting and heartening. Next slide, please. And then these two came from Lara Pena and Christine Moses, our equitable engagement consultants. So there are quite a few questions within the inclusivity and engagement facet that cover different ways that we engage with the community, but nothing quite around some of their main, some of the things that they really focused on when they did all of the work for us around engaging and really listening to underrepresented communities. So I did want to share those. Again, there are a lot of respondents that just didn't know. So there are things we can do there in terms of storytelling, and I have ideas around that. I'm also on the Equity Advisory Committee, but just to show the results, I did also split it up in between excellent or good, fair, poor, and don't know, so you can kind of see the distribution there. And then next slide. And then here on the Tableau site, and this link is available to everybody in the public now. It hasn't been published on the results website yet for the public, but it is published and available. I just wanted to point out where the interactive dashboard is. There's also another tab that I didn't put a little arrow toward, but that says comparisons. Both of those are places where you can really look at every single question and the results by demographic segment, if that's of interest, and also see where we are in every response related to the national benchmark and the percentile compared with all of the other communities who answered that particular question. So you can really dive more deeply into how we compare with other communities there. Let me see if there's anything else. Okay. And then I think the only other thing I wanted to say is that I didn't really touch too much on safety, just a bit, but there are a lot more detailed questions around all of these facets, particularly around like utilities. There's a facet on governance, health and wellness. I didn't touch on all of them, so please feel free to dive into those. But I covered what I thought you might want to know about, and I'm also happy to take questions. Next slide. There was one more right before this, I think, but it's just considering again our community promise of excellence and what we kind of want to do with these results and how to proceed. I did present this same set of information to the leadership team, so they've received that as well. And then there will be some other conversations with other city teams, I believe. But I just wanted to open it up to any questions, and if I don't know, I'd be happy to talk with Polco and get that answer, particularly if it's around data science or that sort of thing that might be outside of my scope, or City Manager Stockwell might be able to add some expertise as well. So thank you.
Thank you for presenting the information on a very large survey. So it's helpful to see it broken down so our community can get the highlights too. Questions or comments? Yeah, Councilor Stack.
Thank you, Mayor, and I always enjoy getting the data, as everyone unfortunately knows on this council, so I enjoy getting these survey results. And I think when reviewing the slide deck, I was really focused on the second bullet point: what areas deserve priority attention and how should we proceed? And when I compare that to our council goals from several months ago, I feel like the council sort of pitched it just right in terms of some of the areas we really want to focus on. Of course, economic development being the area that saw the greatest decrease. We have a council goal related to that. And transportation being a consistent concern for our residents. We have a strategy under Council Goal 3 there. So I feel like this is just sort of corroborating some of the instincts that the council had earlier this year when we were listening to the electorate during the election season. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Slack. I thought that too. It made me feel good that there's a lot of support for helping us achieve, better in those areas. Although I think we're doing a lot of great work as it is. So thank you.
Youth Councilor Hellick.
Hi. I noticed that the decreases in change were a lot larger than the increases in change, and I wanted to know if you knew how well that matched up with the national level of those issues, because I didn't hear that.
Yeah, thanks, Youth Councilor Hellick. I'm not exactly sure on that one. That's something I could definitely get more information about. I did notice that as well, that the points that the decreases dropped kind of stuck out in that way. So that's definitely something I can look into. Thank you.
That's a good question. Councillor Shaw?
Thank you so much for the report, and great to see the data. I'm beginning to dive deeper thanks to Councillor Slack and his emphasis on analysis. I too would, from a priority standpoint, and I think it's great we have CEO Chamber of Commerce here, that economic development, and I know we're going to be busy also putting together a report or a plan on how we can ensure that we move forward with that as a more priority for the city of Tigard. So I think this collaborates the need for that, and so I'm pleased to see that. Also, darn, the overall image or reputation of Tigard, I think we all collectively as staff, leadership team, and council worked hard on that reputation. We're out in the community. Just about at every single event you'll see a councilor or staff person, and so a little disappointed to see that. So hopefully we can find a way, maybe through transit and economic development, also bike trails, we could increase that image and the reputation. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Shaw.
Councillor Robbins?
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for explaining the weighting. I get it. But also, just to echo some of what we heard about the economic development, we've heard a lot of data and a lot of information today, both on this national series and survey and then from our state legal representatives about this. And I think it's a big reminder that as your income level goes down, the changes that we're seeing at the federal level that are trickling down can affect you much more. And so, like you pointed out, the people who make frankly a lot of money say, yeah, we have a lot of choices for where we want to live. But if you're not making in those really high up levels, you may feel like you have very few choices, or you're just lucky to be where you are. And so this really highlights that we have to make sure we're looking out for all of our residents and doing what we can. And I don't know exactly what that means on a day-to-day basis, but we have to continue to work on economic development and the achievements that we made at the state level with eviction prevention and stuff like that, to continue to keep everyone in mind, even those people who maybe don't have time to come to a city council meeting or don't have the resources.
Thanks, Councillor Robbins. Yeah, I was just going to add to that. With the survey, I mean, and I'm sure you all are aware, like there are different kinds of bias that can show up. I mean, there's recall bias where people might not remember things exactly as they were, or their idea changes after they have an experience with something due to whatever factors, or non-response bias, that the people that are more satisfied might be less likely to take a survey. I mean, there are all kinds of things that go into this. So I always try to keep that in mind as well. But one thing that I do, and it's just one piece, but it's a visual kind of component that goes along with the results that picks out certain percentages, certain responses, and then pairs that with kind of a call to action or where to find out more. So it's just one way to kind of share what we are doing, like in the area of economic development. Advanced Tigard and the Tigard Impact Fund, like those are programs that I feel like just are not known enough. So just using this as an opportunity to educate people about what we do have in these areas, it provides that, we already have motivation to do those things, but it really gives us a springboard to focus on things more narrowly too, in terms of communication and letting people know about programs that they might not know that we have. So, yeah.
That's a perfect segue to the Mayor's Corner for this month, which actually talks a lot about the different programs that we have available. So please read and check it out. That's why I wanted to highlight that this month, so we could talk about the good things we are doing, because I don't think we story tell enough about what's available. Councillor Goodusey?
Thank you, Mayor. I don't know if you have input or can reach out to the people that put together the tableau, but there is a slight mistake there. So the question was about safety from violent crime, and that had increased to 12% in terms of the perception. But if you look at the key findings, it just says increases violent crime 12%, which sounds bad.
I actually noticed that too.
Right.
Thank you, Counselor. Yes. Yeah, the phrasing, that extra word safety from, makes all the difference. So yes, thank you, noted. I will let them know.
Counselor Hu?
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Alex. I just want to bring up, your good point that people who are happy probably are not less likely to answer this survey. So, but also I'm not surprised that safety, utility, and economy are the top 3 priorities for the people who took the survey. And I also want to follow up on Councilor Robbins' point of, people who are doing well think, housing choices, no problem for them. Also with the economic development, because I think you mentioned that people who are not white, think 30% of them think economic development went downhill, and only 5% of white think that's the case. So, but at the same time, I guess I'm just thinking out loud. People do rank inclusivity and engagement the lowest. So I just don't know how we can reconcile that. At the same time, we want to help everybody, but at the same time, we're limited in our resources. And Tiger, the survey didn't rank that the lowest. So, I think it's going to be, somewhat challenging to figure out how to use our resources more efficiently to do the most good. So.
Thanks, Counselor Hu. Yeah, I mean, just reading this, I'm just one, teammate doing one narrow job, but there's so many ideas that I had and so many things I just wanted to be like, okay, I'm going to start this tomorrow. There are so many things that we could do. But I do think that we have a really great beginnings of a roadmap from our equitable engagement consultant. And so I know that that's a priority to start mapping some of that out with a little bit more specificity. So that gives me some hope. But I don't know who was saying before that. I think it was one of the legislators that we punch above our weight, and I appreciated that because I feel like we are working on things at a really strategic and kind of sophisticated level, and we keep doing that. I felt a little bit disappointed about some of the results as like the main events person for the city, for example, things like that. But we just keep doing it. And we just keep kind of trying to shout about it and tell that story. And then we see how the results change. And if they do, I think we'll have a lot better sense of how things, what the community response really is after we're able to have 10 of these under our belt. That's where you really kind of see the patterns emerge. So yeah, more to come, but it's just another data point for us. So.
Council President Wolf?
Thanks, Mayor. Alex, thank you for that. And I just ditto to what my fellow counselor said, so I won't repeat that. And I think my biggest thing, Alex, and you already said, gee, I looked at this and here's kind of my list. So I really look forward to the leadership team and Team Tigard. What were the things that really stuck out? What are the critical pieces that are beyond, as the mayor said, there's a lot of opportunities we're providing. So what are those pieces that need to be elevated or expanded, and how we move this important feedback forward in an effective way. So just wanted to thank you for sharing in the presentation and support the conversation that's already had. Thank you.
Thank you, Council President Wolf.
Yeah, City Manager Stockwell?
Yeah, Mayor and Councilors, I really want to appreciate the work that Alex has done coordinating this whole project and putting this presentation together. I've done that similar effort for more than 15 years, and so I know how much work goes into this, and it's really important. She has done some additional work at my request that we're going to get out to you soon. One of the pieces is looking at this through the 5 E's lens as well, which I thought was really interesting. And then another thing is looking at what the absolute highest ratings and what the absolute lowest ratings are. And I want to spend a minute on that because I think that's very informative. It speaks to some of the things you're talking about. The highest ratings are safety in your neighborhood during the day, safety from fire, flood, or other natural disaster, fire services, so that's good for our friends at TVFNR, safety in downtown commercial area during the day, public library services, safety from violent crime, air quality, sewer services, recommend living in Tigard to someone who asks if they should live there, drinking water, remaining in Tigard for the next 5 years, and your neighborhood as a place to live. That is a very good set of things to have rated highly. Now here's interesting what the lowest ratings are, and these might surprise you. I'll skip over the ones that are educational, and obviously I have to point out that the rating of quality of services provided by the federal government is right at the bottom of the list. I mean, people don't feel good about that. But watched a local public meeting, attended a local public meeting, contacted Tigard elected officials to express your opinion, all among the lowest ratings. Why is that important? The important thing is this, that many of these people that took the time to fill out these surveys are not people that have contacted any of us at any point during the year. They've not attended any of these meetings, they've not gone to anything. So that's one of the reasons to do these random sample surveys by mail where you're getting out to the residents, because you start to hear from people that you don't otherwise hear from. Now, one of the things that we are going to proceed further on is from the time we did the first survey to this, we had, Alex, how many people have opted in to get additional surveys now online? It's about,
I don't want to misquote it. It's several hundred, I think.
it's about 200, if I remember. After the first time, it was only 77. That's something that we can continue to increase and get up in higher numbers. And that's part of our subscription to Polko for doing this. And so what we can do is we can ask and send out more opt-in surveys on different topics throughout the year, and then we start to hear more from people that we're not otherwise hearing from. So I think there's value in having a good program around this. I think we have a great start on this. I think having more years of data to add to it, you know, once you get to that third survey, you start to see trends in a different way. And also when you start to look into some of the subgroups and see that definitely some parts of our community have a different perspective on the community than other parts of our community. And that's important to look at as we focus our outreach and our engagement strategies. So the fact that Tigard is one of the very few communities nationwide that has invested this is something that really drew me here. And we're going to continue to work on this and continue to share information with you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alex.
Thank you. Have a good night.
The next item on our agenda is a briefing on Safe Streets for All action plan, and we have Principal Engineer Furman, Principal Transportation Planner Gerke, and Tool Design Consultant Talia Jacobson to present the item. Welcome, everyone.
Good evening, councilors and mayor. We're really happy to be here and give an update on the Safe Streets Action Plan. I'm Courtney Furman, and I'm a principal engineer. And I have with me Tiffany Gerke, our principal transportation planner, and Talia Jacobson, our consultant project manager, to help with the project. So if you can go to the next slide. So the agenda tonight is I'm going to go over the Safe Streets strategies. Then I will hand it over to Talia to talk about the priority safety corridors. And then Tiffany will go over the recent and upcoming engagement opportunities and the next steps. So you can go to the next slide. Okay, so Talia will be going over our our priority locations. And this is something that I think everybody is a little bit more familiar with. So thinking about a street that you travel on and what safety improvements you would want to see. The safe street strategies are also a very important part of the plan, but they are a bit more overarching. So thinking about programs citywide and policies that the city can set, but the two really complement each other. So if we can go to the next slide. So I just wanted to walk through the process of how we develop these strategies. What our consultant team did at the beginning was thinking about not Tigard specifically, but we could be any city, and we have the goal to eliminate fatal and serious injuries in our city. So what are the things that we should be doing? What are the programs we should have? What are the policies and procedures we should have in place? So setting up that general framework. That was the first step. Then looking at what is Tigard doing? So what policies do we have? We did 5 staff interviews. So we talked with 25 different city staff across different departments to understand what are the things that we're doing already, what are the challenges that we're facing, and what are opportunities that we see. So from that, the strategies were developed, and we had about 40 at that point. We did a half-day work session with city staff to go through all of the strategies, and we talked through them in great detail to figure out what is the time frame that we would feel comfortable to implement these strategies. So are they things that we feel like we could do in the next few years, so near term? Are they more midterm, 4 to 6 years, or longer term, 6 to 10 years? What are the resources that would be needed to implement that strategy? Which department would be leading those efforts? So those are the conversations we were having, also looking at opportunities for combining multiple strategies, trying to get the list as short and high impact as possible. So that's where we are with the strategies. I'm gonna go on to the next slide. And it's a very comprehensive list of strategies, and these are the topics that are covered. So we talk about capital projects, and also on the maintenance side, planning, private development, programs, funding, enforcement, and emergency response. And you go to the next slide. So these are the different departments that are going to be involved in implementing and leading the efforts for these 30 strategies. I'm not going to go over all 30 strategies, but I will just highlight a few. For the police department, one of the priorities that we wanted to focus on is we've had really good success with the photo enforcement program. We've seen really good safety benefits to this program. So we really want to look for opportunities to expand that program to more locations. There are some very real resources that are needed to do that. So that's all part of that conversation, but there is definitely a realization that it's a very impactful strategy. For finance, we're looking at opportunities to incorporate safety improvements in some of the development and utility fees that we already are collecting. Some of them have, different methodologies that limit the use of those funds. So finance will be looking at, are there ways that we could incorporate some safety improvements? City management is going to play a big role when we get to implementing these strategies. They are assigned to specific departments, each of these strategies, to lead the efforts, but there will be a lot of coordination across departments. And we see a big role for city management in that accountability and transparency, and seeing we're implementing these strategies and these improvements, and in the monitoring side, like how are we doing? Are we meeting the goals that we set forward? There's a lot of strategies that are going to be across public works and community development. So if you can go to the next slide. There's just a few more listed for those departments. So 2 that I wanted to highlight for public works is that we will be embedding a safety lens into a lot of the work that we're doing, which we're already starting to do, but we want to formalize that. So looking at making sure that when we're looking at street projects and prioritizing locations, that we have that safety lens. In any street project that we have, looking at what crashes have happened on this corridor, what are the safety improvements that we can incorporate. Another one is creating a team that meets to review recent serious crashes and looking if there are engineering improvements or fixes that would apply, and that will be working with our police department. You go to the next slide. Here are some for community development, and want to highlight 2 here as well. One of them, and Tiffany has been doing an amazing job already starting these efforts, but working on partnering with other cities and with Metro to look for ways to apply for different safety grants and partnering on those efforts. Another one is looking at expanding some of our Safe Routes program, which is an amazing program to include high school students. And I think that is my last slide, so I think it goes over to Talia now.
Great, thank you, Courtney. If you would go to the next slide, I'm going to talk now about priority safety corridors. So this is locations where we see the most safety need and the most benefit in looking for ways to advance a project in the near term. Next slide, please. So as you might recall, we were here in January speaking with you about the methodology that we were going to use to select these locations. So the piece of that came from data began with first setting some eligibility criteria, saying we want these to be locations on the city network or a street that's in the process of being jurisdictionally transferred to the city, or an intersection of two city streets. In short, locations that the city owns or will own and has control and decision-making power over. Then from that set of all eligible locations, we said, okay, we want this plan to focus on places that have a documented safety need. So that could be high injury intersections and networks, places where there's been a density, frequency of severe crashes in the past. That could be the systemic safety network. Those are locations with characteristics that have been associated with past crashes, meaning we could see crashes there in the future, even if they've yet to happen. And the speeding concern corridors, which are corridors with persistently high speeds or a big differential between the speed that's posted and the speed that people are actually traveling. Next slide, please. So once we had that list of eligible locations with at least one kind of documented safety need, we really looked at alignment with the 3 Safe Streets Action Plan goal areas. Locations that have socially vulnerable folks in proximity and folks who need safe, affordable transportation options. So folks who are most likely to be impacted due to their neighborhood by unsafe streets. We also looked at vulnerable road users, people walking and biking, and so locations that also had a greater percentage of households that don't have vehicles, so folks who are more likely to need to walk and bike to meet their daily needs. And then we looked at factors related to livable communities. Where does meeting a safety need kind of do the most to make it safe and comfortable for people to walk, bike, and take transit in Tigard and really help connect people to their destinations in the city and help them meet their climate goals? Next slide, please. So we did the eligibility and the scoring. That gets you a first draft, but it's informed by data. There's a lot of knowledge and lived experience that is never going to live in a data set. So from there, we had city staff and our Safe Streets Task Force take a close look at this. They provided a lot of great feedback. We spoke with you and did interactive online surveys to the public to hear about the locations that mattered most. And we coordinated with partners to make sure that things that were advancing in this plan, where they intersected with partner needs, that there was support, and for corridors that were important but aren't in the city's control, it also let the city start a conversation with Beaverton about what can live in their TSP, with Washington County about what can live in their Transportation Safety Action Plan, just 2 of the current efforts that are going on now. So next slide. So what came out of that was a set of 24 corridors. The 15 corridors on the right are places that do not have a previously identified safety project. So we're calling these new projects or new priority safety locations. One thing I want to highlight is of the 24 most important corridors, 9 of those are already locations where the city has a project at some stage of development, design, funding, in some cases moving for construction. And I want to highlight this because to me this is evidence that this plan is building on a strong and effective safety culture within the city already that has been identifying the places that based on data or based on community input are causing some of the most significant safety concerns, and that this plan is building on the good progress you're already making. So next slide is just going to then give you a slightly less cluttered view. These are specifically the 15 locations that we determined needed a new concept. We needed an understanding of what was happening there for safety based on the data, and we need to identify what are the potential countermeasures. Next slide, please.
Can I just ask a quick question? Are they prioritized numerically?
No.
Okay, so they're just random numbers. Thank you.
Yes. So one of the things that we've developed as part of this plan process is what we're calling summary sheets. So for each of the 24 corridors, we're pulling together what do we know based on the safety data today. For those 15 new project locations, that includes a deeper dive into what happens when we diagram the crashes that are occurring at specific intersections of concern. What are the countermeasures that would address these areas, since we don't already have a project in the works? And these are meant to be very public friendly, something that anyone could pick up, use, understand, see if it matched their experience on that street or corridor near them. But part of their role is also to be something that is ready to go anytime there's a grant funding opportunity, and this is a suitable project type. So they really provide that engaging but clear deliverable, and they have a lot of the metrics that funders will want to see in making a determination about whether or not to give a grant. Next slide. So just a couple of examples of the things that you'll find in this set of safety sheets. Information about the crash characteristics on specific corridors and their intersections, helping us understanding what are the movements, what are the behavioral factors, what's the role that things like driving under the influence play based on the crash data. Looking at environmental factors, are the walking and biking networks complete? What do we know about lighting? And then, as I said, for the 15 new corridors, we have these things called crash diagrams, which look at one or more intersections of concern in the corridor and says what are the crashes happening in those locations and what can we see about the specific things that went wrong that led to a crash. And I should say that this is specifically for fatal and injury crashes. So we're not concerned about the fender benders. They're a hassle, but they're not the things that tend to change or end lives. And then finally, we have a sheet for those 15 new projects with countermeasures saying, hey, this is our diagnosis of what's going wrong at specific places in the corridor and the kind of potential countermeasure that, based on the evidence, reduces crashes in that setting where that problem is going wrong. And so that's a really good jumping off point then to be able to develop more detailed project concepts that are grant application ready. Any questions on these before Tiffany talks about engagement?
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for the presentation. You'd mentioned fatal crashes. So I'm looking at the example of Southwest 68, 69 that doesn't have a fatal crash, but it does have serious injury, and usually my eyes are pretty good, so I can see what the next two are. But because it has those additional 3 categories where the numbers are increasing from 1 to 5 to 6, is that factored in?
So usually in the process of developing high injury intersections and networks, when we looked at that, we were looking both at the frequency and the severity of crashes. So back to weighting again, you're weighting the severe crashes more heavily. But there are places that were priority safety corridors, not because someone has already died there. Thankfully, we're identifying these as being places that have risks today, hoping that that puts us on a path to making those corridors safer before a death needs to occur. And so you'll see a mix. You'll see some corridors that have a fatality. You'll see some that only have injuries. And one thing I do want to note, just because I know questions may come up when you look at the summary sheets, you may notice on occasion there will be a fatality somewhere in the corridor, but it won't get a crash diagram. The very short version of that is you can only really get useful information out of a crash diagram at an intersection. So if someone unfortunately lost their life hitting a pole between 2 intersections, diagramming it doesn't tell you anything. Does that answer your question?
Thank you.
Councilor Robbins?
Thank you. Forgive me if you said this. The data, the number of crashes, how far back is that going? Or is it different for different corridors?
It is the same 5-year window for every corridor. I believe that is...
It's 2018 to 2022, and that's, I know that there's a time lag, but that is the most current data available from the state. They just released the data that went through 2023, but
Okay.
that just happened after we had done our analysis. But it is usually 2 to 3 years behind.
Okay, thank you. And that makes sense. That it's a couple years behind. Another question is, so for these new corridors, and I think I'm going to say the correct thing, and I'm kind of just emphasizing this for everyone who's listening too. The 15 new corridors, we don't have a plan yet. We don't know what we want to do. We've just said that these 15 are the next 15 that we should do something about. Is that correct?
I would say that there's 24 locations that are a safety priority. To use our resources most efficiently, the 9, the locations on the right, there was no need to spend time digging into all of the crash data to the same level, because we already have projects that are doing that work, and we have a plan for what improvements are needed that would address safety. So we have a plan already for those. The 15 new ones, the city hasn't spent time, they haven't been identified through anything else. So they're really it's a new take on what are the things that we should be doing. So we spent more time looking at what's needed at those locations. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does, and I appreciate that, and I'm not criticizing by any means. I'm just, I don't want people to say, oh, Main Street, what are we going to do on Main Street? And we haven't gotten that far yet. It's on the list. We're going to hopefully do something once we know what needs to be done, but we don't have that planned yet, whereas, say, Tiedemann, we have some project in the works in some way. If I match up the colors, I can figure it out, right? If I look at them. So Tiedemann is that purple? Blue, design underway, seeking funding, is that correct?
Yeah, so for Tiedemann, we've completed through a 30% design. So we
Right.
know what we want to do, but we just need construction funding still for that one.
Right.
So there are some different levels of where those projects are. Some are funded fully, and some have just had some work that has been completed.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I just wanted to make sure that, if people are going through this and they see their street or a street by them, that they aren't frustrated at not seeing what we're going to do when we just haven't, we're not keeping it secret, we're just still working on it.
Yeah, no, it's a great question, and we were kind of struggling with the best way to communicate that because it is complex, but we also wanted to make sure that we focused our efforts on the areas where we hadn't already developed plans.
I have a follow-up question, I guess, just specifically on Main Street. If the crash data and all the information we looked at was 2018 to 2022, that doesn't include the updates already on Main Street. So I assume that's part of the future conversation as well of this was this for this period of time. We've done improvements. How are we doing now as we wait for that kind of data to come in?
Yeah, we're having exactly those conversations because there are some streets like Main Street that were identified based on data before there was a project that made improvements. And so that's one where I think it would be good to wait and monitor and see, did that project really address all of the safety improvements? Maybe there are some other smaller things that could provide a safety improvement. So those are the things that we'll be looking at.
That's helpful. Councilor Shack, did you have a question?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. And I really enjoy the summary sheets. It's very interesting looking at all the different roads, sort of comparing my own personal experiences with how they're diagrammed out. For instance, there's sort of a speed section, I think, on Walnut, on one of the side roads. I'm like, oh, that's where there's a giant hill. Of course, that would be a speed issue there because you would be speeding downhill. And I apologize if you covered this already, but would you be able to explain the environmental factors on those summary sheets a little bit more? Because I'm looking at it, and a lot of it, I think, is daylight related. I'm guessing it's the time of day that these crashes happen, but that's the one part that's not as intuitive to me.
Yes, that's a great question. Thank you, Counselor. The kinds of environmental factors that are collected by a responding officer in a crash report, which is the underlying data set for this analysis, are things like what was the time of day when it happened? Was it daylight? Was it twilight? Was it dark? If it was dark, was it lit or unlit? What's the weather? And so those are, when we look at environmental factors that link to crashes, that is meant to help say, okay, so yes, there's a big downhill slope, but if more of the crashes are happening at night than you would expect for the amount of trips that happen at night or the hours out of the year it's dark, Does that indicate that lack of lighting along the corridor at specific locations might be playing a role in street users not being able to see each other in time to make a safe decision?
And then we can go on to, I think it's slide 17. I know we shuffled around a little bit. Oh, perfect. It should be the next slide, maybe? Yep, okay. And just to reintroduce myself, for those that are listening in, perhaps, Tiffany Gerke, I'm the Principal Transportation Planner for the city, and I'll be talking about some recent engagement as well as upcoming what to expect coming up. As you can tell from the previous slides, we've been doing engagement throughout this process. Of course, it starts with data, but it gets confirmed, and we touch base with our community to make sure that we're on course and we're on track. And I think that has been shown throughout. The data is reflecting truth. And just like with Alex's presentation previously, it's comforting to see that our community is confirming the data that we're seeing, and that's exactly what's happening. We can go to the next slide. So recently we've had our task force meeting number 3, and we did that virtually. It was actually really cool to see. We had a online Miro board, they call it, and we were all able to add our comments onto all the summary sheets and ask questions, put little notes in there for those that didn't have the necessarily the confidence to speak up, but it gave people a new opportunity and a fun way to interact on a new online platform. For at least for me, it was my first time interacting with the Miro board. But yeah, so I look forward to the next task force meeting, but I'll talk about that in the next slide. But we also did tabling at the Tigard Community Preparedness Fair. I just have to say, working with our community, doing outreach with our community is so refreshing. Everyone is just so welcoming. They're so warm. They're passionate. You don't need to hunt these people down. They come up to you. They want to talk to you, and I just appreciate and have so much gratitude for the community that we're a part of. But great feedback, and you can see on the image there that we did receive a lot of input on what people are seeing along these corridors, what they're thinking the challenges are based on their own experiences, and that's really, really valuable information for us. You can't get that level of detail from the data, so greatly appreciated. And then in August and September, we'll be collecting more online comments, so we can always share that those platforms with you all to share out to the greater audience and our greater community. And then the next slide, please. So upcoming events and upcoming engagement, again, that online comment period. We also will have, we're in the city council briefing right now, so I guess the past or the future has caught up with the present. And we also will be developing and we are developing the project concepts for the select corridors currently, and those, you'll get to see those in the final product. And then we are also working on our data dashboard. That is a really cool tool for us to see, and hopefully I think it will be a helpful tool too as we work toward our council goals. So that it'll be a great resource, and I look forward to sharing that with you all. Early in mid-September, we're going to have our task force number 4, our 4th and final task force meeting. We look forward to that. And then September 20th, you'll find us at the Family Fun with Tigard Police and Public Works, and we'll be doing our final outreach, I believe, within this effort there. Next slide. All right, and next slide. I don't need to. So you'll see us one more time. We'll be coming to council in the fall. I think we're expecting October. We're coming back, I think our expectation is sometime in October for adoption of the plan. Now, adopting the plan means a lot for us because that means we can go after future safe streets and roads for all construction grants. And we need an adapted plan for that. And I think that's going to be helpful for that, but it's also helpful because this is going to be a great tool for us to leverage other funding sources. And now we have, 24 different projects that we can use. And for anybody that has gone after a grant or knows them, sometimes there's these little nuanced details that are like, oh, we were so close to fulfilling those criteria, but our project didn't fit. But now we have 24 to choose from. That gives us a lot of opportunity. So there's that. And then, of course, all the strategies that we're going to be implementing in our everyday activities. I really have a lot of hope that we're going to see good results from this plan. So, and I hope you guys are just as excited to get it well underway as I am, and I know Courtney and Talia, she'll maybe be cheering, hopefully still alongside us, but from afar. But yeah, we're definitely looking forward to getting this underway and starting those actions. Yeah, and let me see, and next slide. Yeah, and I know we had probably the toughest questions in between the strategies and the summary sheets and engagement, but if you have any additional questions, feel free to answer them or ask them and we'll answer.
I just want to say thank you for continuing to work on this. As someone who sits in many transportation meetings with you, I constantly am coming back to, can we do this? And it's like, we need this plan. And so it's really exciting for the many different opportunities that it's going to open up by having this. And I really love what you said, that we have 24 different options and we can now fit better align these projects with what the criteria are, which is just continuing to deliver for Tigard community to be able to get around in whatever way serves them. So it's great work that we're doing, moving Tigard forward. Any additional questions? Councillor Hu?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm excited, but my question is not directly related to this, the action plan. Going back to the slide about community development, I'm glad that different departments are working on it and working together. That's important on it. But one point about on the community development slide is learn from other cities' e-bike and scooter program and update Tigard's rule to support safe use. I'm just curious, as you are looking into this, are you distinguishing between bikes that like paddle assisted, or are you just group them all together, those that do not need to paddle?
Maybe we should have made this one a little bit more clear on what we were intending. This one specifically was looking at kind of bike share and scooter share programs and whether that's something that we could bring into our community. We all know that if we have fewer cars on the road, we'll have safer streets. So this one is a little bit more of a transportation demand management mode shift kind of focus, not something that you're going to see necessarily as a direct safety benefit, but more of an indirect one. So as some of you know, Tualatin has been piloting a Lime scooter. So we're going to be keeping our eye on their success and their challenges that they're facing and any issues. And then, of course, we've got to make us scooter ready, right? I think we need to make sure in our designs, as we design our facilities, that we have safe places to store scooters outside of the pedestrian access route, right? And just making sure that we have safe facilities that people can comfortably and safely, and connected facilities that people can ride on.
Well, the reason I asked is I heard rumors that the city want to ban e-bike on bike trails, and I don't think that's rumors, right? So
I hope someone would tell me that.
So I hope that's just a rumor, because and I can see sometimes I was at the park and there's some, I don't know if they are also called e-bike. They just something just zoom past by me that two wheels that have that person didn't even pedal, and obviously that's unsafe. So those probably should be banned. But e-bikes, they are not faster than regular bikes. So, but anyway, I'm getting off track. But that's why I was asking.
No, and good
thank
question.
You.
I think we need to clarify that strategy a little bit and the language. So that's helpful feedback. But I do have to say, we do recognize the need for educating
Mhm.
people around e-bikes and what is a legal e-bike, what is not. And then right now we're thinking about or looking into ways to develop information sheets to hand
Right.
out to the schools on safe practices for e-bikes and e-scooters and also the laws around them.
Okay.
So I think that's a good first step. And that's perhaps something we could do some outreach on our trails about as well.
Oh, thank you. Sorry for getting off the
No,
track.
no, no. I think it's a good point.
Councillor Shaw?
Thank you, and thank you, Councillor Hu, for mentioning that. And I know Bend has been on the forefront with State Representative Emerson and a bill that they had passed with regards to education and the different kind of classifications of e-bike bills. So it's good that I think in a way we're lagging because we can really see what's working in other communities that as you mentioned, and also what the state legal definitions are and what's appropriate for our community, specifically to Tigard. So thank you for all the great work.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah,
We appreciate your
thank
work.
you.
We look forward to seeing you in October.
Yes.
We have no non-agenda items or executive session. Our agenda is concluded, and so we are adjourned. Thank you so much. Good night, Tigard.